I mean, friends, we've got the greatest government system known to this planet. This is a true fact, and I fully believe this. But anyone will tell you that if you've got a gun and you put it in a baby's hand, what do you got? If you got a gun and you put it in an expert's hand, what do you got? Friends, if you take a gun and you put it in a robber's hand, what do you got? It's up to us to decide whose hand this gun is going to go into. It's our government. It's not theirs. It's not a few chosen people somewhere that decide, oh, we're going to let this yahoo keep on going. It's not them, folks. It's our country. It says, we the people. It says, we the people. It didn't say them the people. It didn't say a few people. It said we. That's me and that's you. We can sit around and think all day long how things are going to get better. The Lord's going to wave his hand and all's going to be great. Well, friends, take a look at history. Open up your history books just a little bit and try to see the truth in it. I mean, the Lord was around then too. And there's been many, many great empires that are nothing but ashes. Many. We would be foolish to think that the Lord is only here today and he wasn't there yesterday. I mean, he says something, I'm here today, tomorrow, and always will be. So whose voice are we really listening to? Sure, we've got many, many great things. I've been all over this planet. We've got great highway systems. We've got great health care. We've got great, great people. We have so much good abundance in this world. But friends, you've heard the old story of one rotten apple. Everybody knows the story, one rotten apple. You don't put a rotten apple in a basket with a bunch of good apples. No, you have to take that apple out, because if not, it's going to slowly infiltrate all the other apples. Once they get a little speck, then they've got to start fighting the battle. And then you've got this little apple that the only thing it's focused on is trying to save itself, which keeps the whole tore apart. We've got to take these bad apples and figure out where they are and take them out of the group and take them over and lay them someplace else. No, I'm not talking violence. I'm not talking anything like that. I'm talking love. We need to think of our brother, our fellow man. We need to think of our neighbor for a change. We need to think of the guy down the street. We need to think of the person in LA. We need to think of our children. We need to think of the gangs. We need to think of the welfare system. We need to think of all these different apples that there are out there that is not harvesting good fruit. We need to take a real good look around. We, the people, for the people. That means everybody, folks. It's not up to this guy in Washington, D.C. It's not up to the guy down at your state house. It's not up to your congressman. It's not up to your senator. I mean, when these great Americans back long ago said, we the people, how are we going to keep this thing together? They weren't saying, well, let's just keep all the apples for ourselves. No, they said everybody's got to get involved. They said, if we blow the trumpet, you leave your field and you come to fight to save your country. That means we, folks. That means all of us. I mean, we have to be pretty stupid to sit around and think, well, I don't got to do nothing today. Everything seems to be going okay. They thought that during World War II, didn't they? I mean, didn't they think when this little old guy with the funny mustache got up there and started yelling and screaming and talking about this group of people, blah, 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 that they're blah, 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 you know, and all that hate that he talked about and all the things. Well, there were many, many people that thought he was the greatest guy in the world, including many people in the United States, many people in England. There were many people who thought that this guy was fantastic until he got in there and totally took over, and everybody knows the outcome of that particular situation. And the funny thing is, he wasn't even the worst guy around. Everybody knows there was somebody who was twice as bad as he was, and his name was Stalin. I mean, he killed more people than Hitler ever dreamed about killing. And what happened to him? We didn't do a thing about that guy. We let him take total control. Why? Because of that same old plan. If you got an army, we got an army. We'll keep this whole thing balanced out so the whole world will be focused on, and we give everybody a dream to live for. That's about what it amounts to. Well, I say that was all fine and dandy for 30, 40, 50 years ago. But folks, the time is now. Now we've got all the high inflation. We've got all the poverty. We've got health insurance and health costs that are so astronomical. I mean, my goodness, a heart transplant, $100,000 or whatever, liver transplants, hundreds of thousands of dollars. How in the world for a 2, 3, 4, 8-hour operation can it cost so much? $100,000. A man in a factory works 3 solid years for $100,000. I mean, how in the world can somebody justify, or can a system justify taking 8 or 10 or 12 or 20 or even 40 hours and charging outrageous prices? Who do they think pays for that? Well, welfare, Medicare, this guy, that guy. No, we the people pay for it. We the people of the people. It's time, folks, to take a look around and wake up and decide to pull out these rotten apples, take a look at them and say, friends, you've played the game long enough. It's time to start thinking of the actual everyday person. It's time to put it back to the people. That's all I have to say on this particular subject, other than God bless America. We are the best country on the planet, and I think we could do better. I think we need just a little bit of honesty. Abraham Lincoln once said, tell the people the truth. Tell the people the problems, and they shall overcome it. I think that is still real today. Tell the people the truth. Tell the people the real problems. Friends, we stopped the biggest demons on this planet. I mean, we stopped the total holocaust of the whole entire planet. I think we can rise above this situation. I think we can be honest with our kids. I think we can be honest with ourselves and honest with the nation and get this thing back on track before it's too late. Because, friends, once you get cancer, 99% of the times, it's too late. And of course, we all know that the Holy Spirit can come in and cure anything. There's absolutely no doubt of that, because in my own personal life, as you will hear, you will see how the Holy Spirit has totally transformed me more than once. I don't want to act like there's no doubt of that. I mean, I personally don't understand, and I've got a song that I wrote about it, why God don't put absolutely everybody on the planet asleep and wipe everybody's mind clean and put nothing but brotherly love and understanding in their mind. And be honest with you, I still don't understand it. Oh, you've got your good meaning folks who'll say, well, because we have free will, and you know, they get into this long elaborate speech about all that good stuff. And I say, well, that's all fine and dandy. If you got free will, let's see you walk across water. If you got free will, let's see you ascend up in the air. If you got free will, let's just see you do whatever you will. What exactly is free will? Free will means that you, whatever you decide you want to do, you can do. So how many people out there have really got free will? I mean, how many people really do? How many people really got freedom? I mean, you can't even go downtown in your own cities now and gather as a group without the police coming around and wanting to know what you're doing and blah, 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 and you probably all wind up in jail. I don't know. I mean, so do we really have free will in our own country anymore? Is there really such a thing as free will? At some level, sure. In your own mansion, you have free will. In your own household, you have free will. If you're the king of your castle, you've got free will. But that don't mean that when you're out in somebody else's castle that you got free will. I mean, go tell the devil that you want free will and see how much he does for you. See how much free will you get from him. As long as you do his will, you got all the free will that you want. Friends, people who are thinkers, I suggest people who are in the government, people who are in places of honor, like judges and lawyers, that the little people, the uneducated people, the average everyday Joe puts in high esteem, I suggest you go down and get a movie that's called The Judgment at Nuremberg. I mean, I suggest that you start looking at history and start looking at some of these people that thought that they were right, that thought, oh yeah, this is the way, you know, and the law's the law, and the tooth's the tooth, and the nail's the nail. Friends, there's a higher law. There's a higher law. There's a law called God's law. And what's at the very top of the law? What is at the very pinnacle? What's at, if you researched every religion under the sun, even if it's the devil's religion, and believe me, I have checked out many, as you will see in the book. At the very pinnacle, at the very top of every one of them is love. You say, Lon, how can you love the devil? Well, if you're in the devil's camp, you love him or you don't. If you don't love him, then you're not in his camp. He'd boot you out pretty darn fast. Now, there's a key there, of course. So that's at the very top of everything, is love. So if we could just learn that, if we could just look at a little baby that no matter who walks up to it, a little baby of 1 week old, 2 weeks old, it don't matter what denomination it is, it don't matter what background it is, it don't matter what color it is, it don't matter anything, even little sheep, even little puppies, any type of little baby, anything can walk up to it. And they're not scared. They're not inhibited. They're not judgmental. I mean, a tiger can walk up to a little baby, and the baby will just lay there, goo, 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 goo. I mean, That's how we're supposed to be. Imagine if we could all be like that. I mean, imagine if every parent raised their kid as Mary must have raised Jesus, knowing that he was God, or knowing that he was somebody very, very special, or knowing that he was the anointed one, which is what the word Christ means. I imagine if every parent was able to have that ability, that their little bitty baby, no matter who they was, they knew that that baby was the blessed one, that that baby was like a blank computer, and that everything that it told it, it would be, that this is the blessed. Imagine what a world we would have. I mean, just imagine that. This place would truly be heaven. I mean, give yourself a test. Walk up in a grocery store, and if you happen to be one color, walk up to a baby that's of another color. If you happen to be one religion and you know for a fact this family is another, walk up to their little baby and just try to get close. That baby don't judge you. That baby don't look and say, oh my, they're Muslims, push them away. That baby don't look and say, oh my, they're Hindus, get away. That baby don't say, oh my, they're Jewish, they're Catholic, they're whatever, they're Democrat, they're Republican, they're good, they're bad. No, take a baby, look at babies. They are so open to the message. They're probably as close to God as in a physical body, most likely you could probably ever get, I'm assuming. But I mean, try that. Look at little bitty babies. Look in their eyes. No judgment, no nothing. Now sure, once they start getting a little older, well friends, they start getting the old computer charged up, and as I said, words are power. I mean, imagine the word, just one word called baby eat. What that done. The rest of the life, a baby until they die, that one word means so much to them. One word called love means so much to a baby. The same as one word called hate this particular type of person, hate this particular type of organization, has just as much power, especially if they hear it over and over and over again. Let's use what the Japanese did somewhere in the 20s and 30s with their kids, what they still do today, except they've changed it to a positive training versus an anti-hate training. I mean, of course they're very intelligent people. Of course their kids are very smart, and of course they practically own a lot of things. Why? Because they take it from the time that the kids are very, very little, and they train them. They take the time night and day to they know that that's their future. They know that them kids are their future. That's what we need to do, folks. We need to use these positive things that these other countries and other people, I don't care where the information comes from. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. We have to look at the fruit. That's all. You look at the fruit, folks. You know, if you walk out in your garden and you plant 4 different trees, and one tree nothing grows, and 3 trees something does grow, how much are you going to water the tree that ain't growing? Well, not very often. Finally, you're going to finally pull the thing up and throw it away. Is that not true or not true? And then you're going to look at the other 3 trees, and you're going to give it all the water, all the attention, all the care. The same thing, if you look at any type of situation, you have to look at the fruit. That's the whole key. Jesus clearly stated that. Every great person that's ever come along, regardless of what organization they've been with, they've always said, look at the fruit. That's what you got to look at. They weren't just talking about great prophets and seers of the future and things like that. They're talking about everything, folks. They're talking about everything. If I go out to sell somebody aluminum siding job, we'll say, why, if they're smart, they're going to call the Better Business Bureau. They're going to call around. They're going to want to look at jobs. They're not going to just take my word for it. They're going to look at my fruit. That is my fruit. My fruit is my songs that I've wrote. My fruit is trying to do what's right and best. Everybody has their fruit. You have to look at the people's fruit. That's the whole key to absolutely everything. There's rotten apples in every organization. There's good people in every organization. There's great people in every organization. There's fantastic people in every organization. But it's just like if you buy a brand new car, what are you going to look at if you see a little dent? Most likely you're going to focus in on that little bitty dent. Folks, we have to look at all the good fruit that we have. Our nation has tons and tons and tons of good, solid fruit that's been around for years and years and years. We need to go back to things that work for our government. We need to go back to things that work for our people. We need to go back to putting our people back to work and quit letting these giant organizations come in and absolutely take everything over, and then when they decide at the drop of a hat they want to sell it to somebody else and fold up and go somewhere else, all these common people, as we're referred to, all of us everyday Joes, are left holding the bag with absolutely nothing that we can do about it. Folks, it's got to change. It just cannot continue like this no more. We need to put the Lord first. Then we need to put the country second. Then we need to put the family third. Then we need to put ourselves fourth. It's not the other way around, folks. It's not the other way around. If I'm dead, that does my family absolutely no good. If I'm dead, that does my country absolutely no good. If I'm dead, that does God no good here in this world. Okay? So that's the way we've got to look at it. We can't say, me, my, I got to get all for me, and then finally to the family, after I make sure I got my zillions or whatever my particular game happens to be. And it's not all money. It's not all money. There's many things like that. Like the workaholic. He may not be making nothing, but he's cheating his family. He's cheating his family. You say, well, maybe he's doing it for the government. Well, you have to look at the fruit and tell. That's the only way to know. Look at the fruit and tell. Everybody has their fruit. I mean, take a minister that lives in $1 million a year house, and that's his fruit. That's part of his fruit right there. What's he doing with his organization's money? What's he doing with the things that his flock gives him? What's he doing with their fruit? You have to look at it. You have to look at an organization. If I come to you and I say, friends, you give me $500 and I'm going to do this with it. Well, if I take that $500 and I do only 2% of it and put the other bit in my back pocket, well, that's my fruit, folks. You have to wake up, man, and start looking at the fruit that people are producing. That's the whole nutshell. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It means loving your neighbor as yourself. What did Jesus really mean by that? What did other great philosophers who said the same thing really mean by love your neighbor as yourself? You have to really look at how people lived 2,000 years ago. In your own little community, all them people would have been your relatives. They lived together in tribes back in them days. Everybody in your tribe was your relative. Your neighbor was not your tribe. Your neighbor was the other tribe down the street. That was your neighbor. It wasn't the guy that was in the hut next door to you. That was most likely your dad or your uncle or your cousin. It was automatically assumed that you already loved them and you already respected them. That's how the Jewish society was set up back in them days. They all stayed together. That's why when they were in Egypt, they all stayed together. Their neighbor would have been the Egyptians. Their neighbors would have been the Hittites and the Philistines. Their neighbors would have been the American Indians. That would have been their neighbors. Not the guy that's in the house next door to him. Jesus didn't mean your next door neighbor, the guy in the little building next door to you, because as I said, back in them days, just as the American Indians did, you had the chief. Next to the chief was his cousin, his brother. Everything was done in like a domino type of effect. That's how basically all the tribes thousands of years ago did everything. They still do that today over in India and some of the other countries that still have tribes, nomad tribes. Everybody in that tribe was your relatives. Okay? Your neighbor, again, was another tribe. So when Jesus says, love your neighbor, he was referring to the other tribe. Because at that time, that was what kept all the friction going. Was there'd be one water hole, and there'd be one tribe over there, and one tribe over there, and one tribe over here, all trying to dominate one water hole. And he was saying, no, love your neighbor. If your neighbor needs water, and he's thirsty, give him water. If your neighbor needs bread, give him bread. Friends, it's about time we start realizing who our real neighbors are. It's about time we start realizing what is really going on here. We cannot continue to keep thinking only of ourselves, us. It's a whole group of us, folks. There's many of us. Again, we the people. That word covers everybody, all the tribes. That covers every nationality that there is in this country. And the United States, the reason they called it the United States was because basically it was a mixture of many different countries uniting together in a free world to start a new world. That was the whole effect of the United States. You had the Dutch, you had the German, you had the English, you had the French, you had all these different tribes of people that come over here and says, okay, let's give it a try again, only this time we'll call it America, the land of the free, the home of the brave. Okay? That's what all that stuff meant. It meant we together as a tribe, as a giant tribe. Not, oh, they're German, they're this, they're that. No, it was a whole group together. Okay? That's the way we need to be now with the world. That's the way we need to be now with some of these groups that we've labeled off as bad, as evil, as whatever, folks. They are your neighbor. And I'm telling you, the Lord is watching, whether you want to believe it or not. Watch the film, The Judgment in Nuremberg. I mean, there's many people that don't believe in God. That's fine and dandy. I tell you, go down and watch that movie. Go down and get the movie of Gandhi's life. And tell me, if that man wasn't